Alexander. Now, Sam is standing by. Sam, have you gotten your hands dirty? Is the cleanup operation underway? Sam, good morning.
Good morning, Lemon. Good morning to the viewers. Rightfully said, we are coming to you live from Alex, affectionately known the Alexander Township, and we're in Swetla, in a place that I can only tell you, at this time of day, the stench is incredible. But there is an amazing vibe and spirit here. So many people come out today, has heeded the call. 2,500 people in various departments, 5 different places in this township, and they're literally underground getting their hands dirty. If I've got my hands dirty, I don't have the overall on. That's my excuse. I'm also working for Morning Live. I should forget the excuses. I'm joined by the Minister of Environmental Affairs, Edna Molewa. Ma'am, thank you very much for joining me. Maybe before we get into the crux of the issue, let's talk about you this morning. You're in green. You're here with your team, the area that you're cleaning.
Yes, indeed, it is very exciting as always, just to be amongst the people working hard on matters that are real of great importance to people. Cleanliness is next to godliness, and we know that it actually affects people's lives when you don't have a clean environment. So we are here to ensure that Alexander is clean. This is not, by the way, the beginning of a project. There was once a project like this that was kick-started when the renewal of Alexander started way back in 2000. And that has sort of gone down a bit, but at the time people knew that on their own, they had initiated it themselves, knew that on their own they had to clean, they had to ensure that their environment is clean, but also plant trees and vegetable gardens. That was what they were encouraged. So today, we have taken this initiative together with the provincial government to really begin this project. It's called Bontle ke Botho, meaning that beauty is humanity. So this is what we are all about. The Jacks Bay River is a very important river for us as a country. We know that water comes from here into Hartbeespoort Dam, into that beautiful area. So hard and solid waste is important actually for us to remove it, but also for the Jacks Bay River to come and have a chill here and see beautiful river, blue, green, and just flowing, blue actually flowing.
Ma'am, one of the things that we have to talk about, we've seen an unprecedented move at COP21, a global movement towards, I think many people might argue, but Kyoto Protocol was a failure. It was for a few. COP21, it's a global movement. How is South Africa reflecting that and maybe in part implementing it?
Let me say that, as I said earlier in this week, just contextualizing this agreement, we had Kyoto Protocol, we had people proliferated in different ways, different corners, each one trying to do something to cut the carbon emissions and to reduce the carbon emissions. Where are we now? Why are we having this drought that's really, really very drastic ever compared to the last one that happened in 1921? It's because the climate change is now moving and really it is a reality, but it's becoming worse and worse and worse. That's why we have this serious drought this year. What are we doing as a country? And from that agreement, by the way, which is a universal agreement, the only and ever that was reached universal agreement for the whole world, which every party, 196 parties of the world said, yes, we are part of it. That now is going to be implemented post 2020. But there are actions that we've got to do before 2020. It's carried in the decisions because you know there's an agreement, there are also decisions. So in the decisions we said, as countries, let us have the INDCs, intended nationally determined contributions, but also act before 2020. In South Africa's case, we are currently looking at industrialization. The entire sectoral approach is what we're looking at. Energy is one sector, land, water, agricultural practices, where we are cutting the carbon emissions, amongst many other areas that we are working on. But let me take an example, for instance, in South Africa, what we're doing. Because these many cars that are moving throughout the streets, carrying people on a daily basis, they are increasing on a daily basis. There has to be a moment where we say there must be lesser cars with catalytic converters in the cars that produces lesser carbons. Now we are moving. Gautrain is not an accident of life. This refurbishment of the transport system, it's not just happening because it's a nice to have. It's intended to have the green revolution. So it's part of that, and it's an action that's happening pre-2020. The fact that we are number one leader of the renewable energy in South Africa, solar and hydro, not quite on hydro yet, but solar and wind energy, we are excelling. as compared to the whole world. We are now moving towards 42% of production of energy as South Africa, be relying on the green energy. So these two are amongst the biggest that we are embarking on right now.
Very quickly, and we're running out of time. I just want that shift. When we look at not only places in Morocco, in Egypt, places like Rwanda, Kigali, that have shifted from being one of the dirtiest and filthiest environments to being one of the cleanest, recognized for it. How do we make that monumental shift? Because one of the things that have come up this morning, it's either education or culture. Which one do we put first? And if we're going to put both together on the table, how do we find the balance?
There's a third one, which is action. Education, culture, and actions. What are the actions that are supposed to be taken? By the way, let me say, you cannot win a battle like this one of getting the dirtiest places to be correct without, as a country, getting the relevant legislation and regulation in place. That we have done. The 4 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, and those are a package of things that we've got to do in South Africa. So the framework is right. Now we're moving to the culture and real actions as well as education. This part of the work that we are doing here in Alexandra today provides firstly education, it's an action, but we are also going to have to introduce in what we have in the department what we call the recycling economy, which is quite huge, by the way. Yeah. So the actions are quite important. Those have got to run concurrent. This is one of those that we are actually embarking upon. It's got to be massified throughout the country.
One of the other things you talked about, legislation and policy, and many people may argue that yes, it's in place, in parts it's been enforced, but we've seen a mushrooming of these illegal dump sites. The Premier even said in some cases we even know who's dumping them. What kind of action or policy or legislation do we need, or what part of it do we need to invoke in order to make sure that those that are doing this, that they get to book?
Let's face it, even as we have the policies, there are certain things that we as government have got to do to reinforce, but also to support the communities. This area where we are right now, we're at a place which was actually originally informal settlement. As a result, because of the socio-economic needs of the people here, you didn't quite start having dustbins that are necessary, the necessary infrastructure to support the people who may want to change culture, who we know want to change culture of dumping anywhere, no longer dumping wherever they just feel like dumping. But right now, government has got to bring those dustbins. We've got to also ensure that this culture is actually done away with. But gradually, we believe that it will happen because we have also introduced this culture and education in the area of the schools. The young people, we've got kids in environment. That is part of the curriculum, part of education. We are also educating teachers so that into the future, we have this inculcated in the minds of the young people who are going to be the elders of tomorrow.
I hear you, Minister. Thank you very much for joining Minister of Environmental Affairs, Edna Molewa, just sharing the insights in terms of how we're changing this culture, this education, and this illegal dumping. There's still lots more happening here. As I mentioned to you, the actual pickup has already started between 7 and 9. After that, at 11 o'clock, the official process will start at the Alexander Stadium, and there it'll be this message about looking after the environment, making sure that we are green and we are clean. Let's go back to the studio.